to Inkwell Spoken Presents Common Genius, Uncommon Destiny. I am your host, Reggie Key, and today I have with me my distinguished guest, Brother Robert Whitt III, otherwise known as Bob.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Thanks for being on. And I'm back in Elgin.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that having just helped you publish your first book,
Yes.
that we get a chance to talk in person.
Absolutely.
The theme of your book is one that is vital to help communities thrive. I believe the theme in the book, which how you've given it, is displaying what we're going to be talking about today. How do you your genius? Yeah. However, just because I see it doesn't mean that you see it, because many times we have definitions. We've been programmed with a lot of stuff. Yes. And even your book actually deals with getting out of that program and seeing people for who they are instead of who society says they are. Yes. And so I'm all about reorganizing labels, putting labels where they should be, tossing out ones that are missing. Yeah. So my first question to you to get us started, Bob, is, do you consider yourself to be a genius?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. I think one of the things that puts me kind of in that position is me understanding who I am.
Yes.
As a person. And as a person, I have certain abilities and gifts that I can offer, whether it's within my family, whether it's within the secular area of work or whatever, but that I can offer that up. You were talking about us being filled with a lot of stuff. There's a saying that says, we're drowning in a lot of information while starving for wisdom. And that's the thing that is important for us to understand about the ability that we have to function in a place where, we need to be hungry for that opportunity to be that genius within ourselves. But as we continue to be saturated with all this information that's going on, whether it's political, whether it's the national narrative, the media, we're indoctrinated with all this other stuff that people, particularly young people, are hungry for wisdom. They're starving for wisdom, and so I think one of the keys is important that we understand who we are. We understand who we are, then the level of what we can be puts us in that place to be a genius. Yes. And I think the word genius has been used in a different level to where you got to have certain education. You got to have maybe economic status. Because I go to a high class school, so that automatically makes me a genius.
Or at least gives you more access to get to that.
Exactly. And so the ability is really believing in who you are, and then that elevates you to that place of, I have this gift in me, I have these giftings in me that gives me, that authority to be one called a genius. Absolutely. So I don't have 5 master's degrees. Now I went to college, but guess what? I know who I am, and that qualifies me to be a genius.
Yeah, you said a lot there. That's good. Because one of the earliest things that I grabbed a hold of, I heard you say, is I have a specific skill set, a specific gift. You don't have all the gifts,
right?
And no one's supposed to have all the gifts,
right?
But the gifts that you do possess, the gifts that you do hone, create a lane for you that makes you, the world calls it a subject matter expert, but I'm calling it genius as it relates to the book that I've written. The other thing that I like that you touched on is that it has nothing to do with upbringing. Has nothing to do with, it's something innate within you. That's right. And once you tap into it, like if we started this interview and I said introducing Donald, right? You should be like, oh, it's time out. You got my name wrong. And labels are important. The first label that you receive is your name, right? I was helping some students this week, and I said, who knows what their name have? I said, we're going to make sure everybody knows your name, so that you don't let people call you out your name. So that you don't let people, even my son's name is Josiah. I said, people not let people call you Joe or Josiah, because your name has power. Anytime somebody says your name, you're speaking something into you, right? And so If he starts off with that expectation, then he won't let somebody call him something less.
Sure.
And genius is the same way. If we take on this mantle of genius, then we won't, when somebody comes with something less, you're like, no, at the end of the day, you'll call me by my name. Absolutely. You won't recognize the genius that I have. Absolutely. Anything less, I'm not.
Absolutely. So,
but if you don't know your identity,
exactly,
you will take stuff that people put.
And that's what the problem is.
That's what the problem is. That, when you encounter something, we all have prejudices. It's innate within us. We all discriminate. We all have biases based off of what we're exposed to. And we all are trying to preserve our safety when we go out to the world. So when we go out into places that are unfamiliar, our biases kick in because we're trying to keep ourselves safe. But the problem is, once you encounter someone, I'm biased when I say, sure, but once I meet them, absolutely, the job is to honor them and just say, I'm gonna let go of my bias because this person is not who I am, so I play them out to be. But most people, I would say, there's a lot of people who have privilege who don't do that. So they say, hey, look, you're this. I don't care what you say, but to make my world make sense, this is the box that you fit in. Only. And if someone receives that type of prejudice and doesn't know who they are, and they keep receiving it from person after place, they'll begin to say, well, that is who I am. And they'll begin to have the yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's where I talk about a little bit in my book. So okay, this
absolutely.
Okay, a little bit in the book about kinfolks or skinfolk, and how, from a standpoint of the skinfolk, for example, and this is just me speaking of what I see. When I see someone who is a person of color, particularly African American, that have the opportunity to do some things that can make a change in something, like genius folk, what happens is that they get to a place where I've lived this, and instead of identifying who I really where I really come from, I identify with the very thing you just shared. Because now somebody's put me in a position of being something that I'm really not. And that's the skin folk. But with kinfolk, they know who they are. They understand who they are. They are geniuses. And so when they elevate, they don't forget where they've come from. And those are the people that are real and understanding. And that's what changes. We identify with things, like you said, that label that people want to put on us. And you're so true about the name. That name thing, I tell you, is a powerful, powerful thing. And you're a minister, you're a prophet. You did the whole thing about death and life is in the power of the tongue. I know that's in the Bible, but anybody can take that, run without. So we're speaking. I'm speaking out. If I'm not speaking, first of all, when I don't speak who you are, I'm dishonoring you. Because I'm not choosing to use your name. I'm dishonoring you. And so that kind of plays into that whole thing of understanding who you are so that you can.
We'll talk a little bit more about, we're going to come back to that theme of death and life of the time. I see a lot of that. I'm tired of life. And to my people. And my people is not African American.
Right. That's it.
I see people suffering. They don't know that. Place to breathe life. It's a place that are dreadful and so my follow-up question for you, there's something that you said that seems fun, but I want to test this. This is it. This is what continues on this field. I firmly believe that if you're not walking your true identity, your true that's a thing. If you're not walking in a life that truly was designed, like you're walking into, you're putting on the skin of another another entity that you were never meant to be because you're accepting these labels, that's akin to death. Because you're not living the life that you were supposed to live. And it can manifest in death. I don't know why I'm choosing to go here right now. It can manifest in death. I believe that's how Tupac died. Tupac was not a thug. He just put on the label. He was a thug that's trying to sell albums. He went to, the School of Performing Arts. He didn't come from, prestige and everything, but his mom did the best she could to get him into places that exposed him to things. He was a poet. He studied ballet. But when he got to the West Coast trying to advance his career, he got pulled over by the cops for a racial profile and beat him. He was like, oh, you want to treat me like a thug? I'm going to act like a thug. It cost him his life because he started acting like something. And he started to do thuggish stuff. They jumped somebody, beat them. They said, okay, you want to act street? I'm going to get my street folk to come at you. That cost him his life. Because he's a guy that he was definitely a he was. But he got overpowered by his passion. So I want you to if I could take you back a little bit. I would assume there was a time in your life I would have asked you. Correct. I think all of us have been. Yes. I'm not going to ask you what changed because you already kind of said that. And my real question is, who do you think of, or what image came into your mind back then when you were like, I don't have it? If somebody would have asked you, who do you think of when you think of genius? What name, what face comes to you? And even that. Oh, I said my mom. Your mom? Yeah, we just used to act. Right. Yeah. Clearly. I think I get it. Oh, man. Yeah, but clearly. I got a chance to read a little bit about your mom. Yeah, she taught us to be geniuses. Right. She understood the challenge, but she wouldn't allow us to be pulled into that. Right. Even though we lived around it, or we were in it. We was in the hood. But she would not allow that because she understood who she was as a genius. So, my mom gave up. She was pregnant with me when she was 17. She was a student, valedictorian. She was going to go to the famous Carew House in Cleveland to do acting and dancing. But things changed, but she never lost the genius part. Yeah, she taught us as kids to walk in that, because we learned how to understand who we were, and then come from the media, then come from politics. It didn't come from the racial stuff that was going on back then. It came from someone within us who understood and taught us the correct way of how to live that. So clearly, you could ask that question. It's not even, and it's not the typical. It's real talk. Yeah, it's real talk. It's real talk. Real talk. Yeah. That's a blessing from the Bible, because so many times the reason why I asked that question is the name that most people think of is a name that they have no connection to. And it's a beautiful thing that you could put genius to someone that's close to you as your mother. Because of course you're going to see yourself. Absolutely. Absolutely. Something that might be in you too, right? You're a little more inclined to receive it, versus the majority of people who I hear, like whatever. And I'm going to answer that idea, Albert Einstein. And no disrespect to Einstein, he is a genius in his own right. But there's something that happens when people attribute genius to Einstein, put him on his pedestal, physics, whatever. They associate genius to him, and they do that. It's associate genius for themselves. They're like, I'm not Einstein. Only certain people can have that type. I'm not one of them because he is. Yeah, that's flawed. Yeah. That's not how that should work. Yeah. He was a genius in physics. He wasn't even that strong of a student at the time. I don't know if he did it, but he got one of those letters home to his parents that was like, I'm sure Albert wants to do this, but he's not doing it. But whoever in his household said, no, I'm not subscribed to something. It's just different. He learned differently. Yeah. We still struggle with that in the school system today, but people learn differently from the system has set up, and they don't fit into that system. And now they're putting all these negative labels on it, that then begins to really marginalize it. He did not let himself be marginalized. He got to college. The professors were still like, he would be focused, he would be out the window looking. They were like, you're not paying attention. You know what he was doing? He was looking out the window. I was afraid of looking about it. He was imagining what it would look like to ride a beam of light from the sun to the earth. And in doing that, he came up with about it. But the professors were like, you're not thinking about what you think, get out. But that became the basis of what that theory is still being proven. That theory still shapes the world today because he was like a visual, he was a dreamer, he was a visionary. He didn't fit the mold. But that was just to give Einstein a shout out. I'm not biased. However, I am biased when it comes to people disassociating themselves from the truth to Einstein, who most of us don't. None of us look like that.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And so the thing of it is, genius has nothing to do. Not all genius have everything to do with IQ, GPA, academics. There are those lanes. But genius, when it comes to you and I, is all about what is your talent, what is your lane, what you know what that is. And prosper to offer the world. So there's a quote that I feel like strongly reinforces this concept. That purportedly comes from Einstein. I'm not sure now, but it doesn't matter who it comes from. Oh, it's powerful. I'm gonna say it to you.
Okay, yeah.
And you know if you've heard it.
Yeah.
It goes like this. If you judge a fish by how well it can climb a tree, it will spend its entire life thinking it's stupid. Have you heard it before? How do you interpret that? What is that saying?
I don't know. That's a good one.
Make you think, doesn't it?
It makes you think.
It's one of those things that, you might come home and you talk to your wife like, it's first of the day that I'm still processing.
Yeah.
But check it. Let's just break this down. There's a quote, but I see images when I hear it. So I get into a fish, into a tree. And there's a third thing in this quote. I see somebody with their own prejudice coming and judging this fish and saying you should not tree. I see that happening to this fish day after day after day. Multiple coming by for whatever reason, trying to project how they view this fish, forgetting to look at and appreciate what it was designed for. And saying, I don't care that you shoot them on the water.
Yes.
And when the fish begins to realize that everybody is saying this about it, but he's not in the family. What is the fish? Fish should be in what? Water. Fish have gills. Fish have they're streamlined. They have scales. They're designed for the water. If somebody, instead of trying to put their own prejudices on this fish, they can say, you know what? Anybody knows what fish is. This thing belongs in the water. You put that thing in the water, you're going to see in a minute what its genius is. It's going to fly. You're not even going to be able to see it. It's going to dart off. You're not going to see it again. Right? Yeah. But as long as it's we have this saying, fish out of water. As long as this fish is a literal fish out of water, look what happens. If this thing out of water is what's going to happen? It's going to die. And this comes back to the death and life. I see dying genius all around because people are having regulated. And they begun to accept. They begun to try to thrive. There's a quote that's the worst thing you do because you get stuck. And this fish is literally stuck until it dies. Because it's not, and the tree represents systems that are put in place that we're told, hey, you have to do this way. So we'll touch on systems a little bit later. But I think this is such a powerful quote because it really begins to help us unpack like how we've allowed people to tell us you should be climbing this Einstein tree. Einstein was a bear. He climbed trees. He was designed to do that, but not everybody. There are some other physics geniuses out there. Sure. But that genius does not necessarily equate to mine or yours. It doesn't equate to me. I know some physics, but not to that extent. But there's some things that I do know that I can probably, circle around this side. Right?
Yeah.
And that may sound arrogant. It's not, humility. We always talk about one side of humility. Don't think too highly of yourself. But there's another side of humility. Not thinking too lowly of yourself either. You know exactly who you are. You're trying to aspire to be greater. You don't lord it over people, but you also don't accept less than who you are.
Yeah.
And we've been fearfully one of the things. So, hey.
Sure. I am unique at another thing for genius too. I am uniquely created by God. There'll never be another.
There won't be.
And that's also part of it.
Yes, sir. Even twins.
That you recognize you're created. You'll never be.
It just took me as a grown man a couple of years ago to understand what it means when we say, we broke the mold we made. I never really understood that, but I understand it. When you form something, you form it with a mold. And once the thing has cured and you take it out of the mold, and you don't want anyone else to replicate it, you break the mold. Can't ever be made again. Nobody can replicate. Nobody can duplicate. So that's how we thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
A part of this thing now that's come out of this mold is, when you understand, like, what is it made for? Imagine the first person that saw a hammer. It's like, what is that for? The only person that's going to know is the person that created it. And once they set the tone and take it forward, that's it's defined. The way that I've seen how to define a person's element is by a three-part equation. It's passion, talent, and purpose. If you can figure out these three things, you have unlocked great. So I'm going to take some time to walk through each of them. We're going to look at passion the same way we kind of looked into. We kind of deconstructed the word genius, took away this elite status, and now we're saying that anybody can access this thing. And so I'm going to do the same thing for passion. Most of the time, when people hear this word passion, the word that comes up almost like Einstein's genius is love. When you start talking to youth, we will do for your life, whatever it is, just do what you love. I don't say that. I've been shown something different. I read this book by Michael Murdoch called The Assignment. And he said, well, hey, look, if you want to find out what you've been assigned to do in this world, it's like, figure out what your Popeye mode is. Popeye will be getting beat up by Bluto, circumstances will be on top of him. He would switch those circumstances, become the person that's on top of the circumstances. And he would say, I had all I can stand. I can't stand no more. Put out that spinach, it's a wrap.
That's it.
Right? So he's like, what's your Popeye mode? Yeah, all I can stand. What he's saying is, what is it that you hate? So now we're talking about the exact opposite part. Because if you can figure out what it is that you hate, not people, but things. What is something that has caused you trauma or caused loved ones to be traumatized? That when you see it, you're like, that shouldn't be. Somebody would do something. But guess what? If you keep, every time you see it, if you keep saying the same thing, somebody would do something. Somebody should do something. Guess who somebody is? It's you. It's only aggravating you. That's for a reason. That's intentional. Right? You have been designed to look at that thing, you see disorder, and say that needs to be fixed. And most of the time, we only focus on something like that and it affects us. Because we're stuck. And it's okay though, because even like celebrities, there are celebrities who get afflicted with disease that didn't pay attention to when you hear them talk about it. Michael J. Fox, not calling himself. Once he had Parkinson's, then he became the spokesperson for Parkinson's. We need to do away with this disease. I know what it does to you. I have the platform and the resources. I'm going to bring attention to this thing so we can eradicate it. And he wouldn't have done that had he not been afflicted and traumatized by the disease. And so that's how passion works. Once you know, like, ooh, I don't like that. That makes me feel like a fish out of the water. Then you'll go out of your way to make sure no other fish don't feel like that ever again. And so one way to really, really bring this home, because people get uncomfortable when you say the word hate. I mean, we're very anti-hate, and we should be, because like I say, you shouldn't hate people, but you should hate some things that limit people and cause people to do things they're never supposed to do. As part of this army. So I ask this question a lot when I come to the kids because I mean, it's not talking about what teenagers know. So when I go into a classroom, I'm like, tell me what you hate. And so like this, the teachers in the background like, why do you understand? Come in here. What's about to happen? We don't know. And so one time, I was asked to come to some kids. I think it was Garland at elementary school. 10 little boys, all the minority kids. And the principal was like, look, I need you to come talk to these boys. We're talking on a weekly basis because they're struggling. They were all in, and they were all IEPs. We call it special ed back in the day. Now we call it education. That's fine. PC. And so came in. First thing I did was try and put a label. Hey, you're all geniuses. They scoffed at me. Matter of fact, next one were offended. You're in the wrong class, bro. Who you talking to? Like mad at me. And I would dare put something great on it. But then they would roast one another. Like they didn't turn from that to you want to hear whatever I do, but that was hilarious. They got used to, hey, you're emotionally disrupted, you behave this way, whatever, and they were used to it. So when I put that on, they didn't see. I got something for you. If I said, tell me what you hate. And if you could ask that fish, going back to the metaphor, you could ask that fish, what do you hate? I believe that fish would talk. That fish would tell you, I hate this tree. I hate that people keep telling me this. I'm struggling to meet their expectations. I hate that. And so think about these 10 little boys. I didn't mention this, 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders all in one class all day. That's not right. I talk to kids and I said, they look at me like, I'm like, yeah, that doesn't sound like that. You're a middle schooler, you can tell that's not right. Scare fish out of water. So the thing that they universally told me about, they hated. No, these little boys can never agree on a fight or what to play, when to play it, whatever. They all told me the same thing. Their treat was school. We hate school, Mr. Key. Now what you gonna do? And I was like, I'm so glad you said that. They thought they ruined. They had a smirk on their face. It was like they sat back like, what you gonna do with that? You got your workshop up there. You didn't expect that, bitch. I said, you're doing the curveball. I'm about to knock it out of the park. Here's what I told him. I said, I expect you to be school. Just marginalized to make you feel like you don't belong. You don't belong. We're in one class all day for how many days of school you have. That's not right. And I said, let me tell you something about your school system. Not just that school, but the school system. I said, there's 8 different ways. There's 8 different learning styles. At most, you're being taught from 3. If you don't speak one of those 3 languages, you're gonna feel like you're lost. Like it's auditory, it's visual, and it's a left brain thinker. Left brain people are lots of love man. So I said, if you don't speak one of those 3 languages, then when the information is being presented to you, you're gonna feel like lost in translation. I don't understand what you're saying. Day after day, I don't understand what you're saying. I hate this place. And so I said, check it. If you discover what your learning style is, which, I think that the majority of people, especially minorities for some reason, is kinesthetic learn, which means I gotta be moving around. We'll get this. But then you start moving around, hey, sit down, be still. Or maybe you're what's called expeditionary or exploratory, like you gotta touch to absorb and understand. Hey, keep your hands to yourself. Or maybe, what's the other one? The other one, a right brain thinker who's more creative. They draw outside the lines. Understand those lines. If they can find out what their learning style is outside of those 3, and instead of running away from it, they ran towards it to fix it. Because the thing that you hate is the thing that you are going to plan, not to just address it, fix it. Right? That's why it becomes a passion, because it drives you. Whenever you see it not functioning, people are like, ooh, I know what to do about that. I'm gonna go toward it. It becomes a David and Goliath movement. Talk because most of the things that are system aren't small. They're huge. They've been in place for a long time. They've been taunting you for 40 days, telling Goliath, right? And it takes one person that looks at that giant and says, I don't care how big it is relative to me, I'm gonna do something about it. Give me my slingshot. So the thing of it is, I've been talking for a while.
No,
I'm a politician.
Yeah.
You got
no, you're doing.
Okay.
This is great.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you remember what happened with David?
Yeah.
The first thing they tried to do was to give him somebody else's arm.
Right.
Give him the king's arm.
Right.
It's like, this does not, this is not me.
King was trying to set him up anyway.
Right. He's like, this doesn't feel right. This isn't me. I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah.
Take this off.
Yeah.
Give me my slingshot. I'll kill lions and bears. You 5 smooth stones.
Yeah.
I'll show you what I do. You know what happened. I never down time. I stay chopped off. Problem solved.
Yeah.
Right. And so the thing becomes, what is the tool that we have that's like David's slingshot to face the thing that that tool at the time, right? So we finished the story with the local.
Yeah.
So I said, look, can you see? I said, look, if you realize that your learning style, if you run towards the system of the school and say, look, I'm gonna get myself in the system. So I told them, I said, you're all future educators. Like, I got real big and started drawing back from them. No, come here. Like, why are you going? I had their attention. Got them to think. I said, you're a future educator. Because your learning style, if you turn it into a teaching style, now you're going to reach the others who are learning like you that feel like, oh, you're not important. Because I know you're not. You need somebody to present this way. I can do that.
Yes.
That changed the game. That begins to fix. Even the teachers are at ease now. When I say the school system is broken, they're in the background because of natural implementation. So the solution is being marginalized. And so this is game changing.
Yeah.
This happens in every industry, every sector where there's human beings. It's not just the school system. Yeah. People are being marginalized. So back to the talent. The talent is your tool to address what's broken. So I'm gonna call it. This is why I usually talk.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make this personal.
Yeah.
Bob.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Great question. To be honest, it's not a trick answer. I find it hard to eat.
That's fine.
I would probably say I dislike a certain thing. I can't think of anything from my head, but my dislike means it's important for me to find out why I do this stuff, so that I can correct what may be correct. I, for example, I dislike people not have a true understanding of who they are, and the things around them. I dislike that those that have the loudest mouth are the ones that are not the geniuses. Those that are looking for that 15 minutes thing because something that happened. We're living in an era. Not a season, an era. And a lot of it has to do with what's coming out of our mouth. And what side we want to take.
Which side is going to be us?
Right. And one of the things that I use all the time, and it's a Bible reference, again, I think whether you have faith in Christ or not, the Bible is also the source of wisdom. But you remember the story of Joshua. Joshua is now taken over. They moved into the promised land, and they're about to take Jericho. And back then, they weren't taking any prisoners.
Right. Everybody's gone.
Everybody's gone. Sadly, it was the Old Testament, but sadly, children, women, men, livestock, yeah. So as they're about to take over Jericho, Joshua's going through the city. And he's trying to find out who we need to take out of here or who's gonna be with us. And he sees this man on the road with a sword in his hand. He goes up to the man and he says, "Are you with me or you're against me?" And the man said, "I'm neither." And he goes into the whole thing, "I'm the commander of the Lord," and Joshua falls on his face. That's the part that we're missing in society. We're on one side or the other. And it's not about being on one side or the other. Right? It's about being who you got to understand who you are and focus on you doing the things that are right. And so and from a Christian standpoint, using that same analogy, we're not about the left or right. I don't necessarily mean it political, but we're not on either side. Okay, we're lined up with Jesus. We're lined up with God in the center. Yep. And that's what the Spirit of the Lord was saying. It's like, I ain't on either side. I can tell you there's another saying that, and again I'm going to use another biblical reference, but just that Jesus never proclaimed the cause. He only proclaimed himself. Meaning, if hypothetically he was to come back, he's not going to be marching down the street holding up a Black Lives Matter. He's not going to stand on the corner at an abortion facility. He's not going to do that. Why? Because he didn't come to condemn the world. But that's what we're doing today. We're hating on one another. Stuff is spitting out of our mouths that brings about death. And we're destroying the fabric of what we did once have. And so, yeah, it just, yeah.
So that breaks your heart.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
I'm gonna touch your heart. Yeah.
Yeah.
I put you on the planet. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's do another commercial, but that's part of the reason why I got that book.
That's exactly why you got it book, because the subtitle
teaching the lines.
Right.
I ain't on the black, I ain't on the blue.
Right.
Middle.
Right. And so that's the beauty of it. So when you told me about this book, I instantly saw your genius. And then it came, I saw the context of where this book came from.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's this.
Yep.
This man's thing.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. So especially when I started reading, I was like, this is that really cool. So as you said, you have a strong dislike for it.
Yeah.
I saw it.
Yeah.
Yes. We can talk about it.
Yeah.
Make sure it's
yeah.
Yeah. Make sure that you know it is your genius.
Yes.
That's a very good element.
Yes.
You are uniquely designed to address the subject.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
And that's a beautiful thing. What would you say is your talent though? Your talent for you to address the brokenness that to speak out and understand. What would you say your talent?
I'll preface it by this story. Right? You got a few minutes? No, we got I was a junior in sophomore football. Played in MAC conference, Penn State. We're going up against the second ranked team in the country. And we're in the stadium, it's a home game. You hear the band going, but it's silence in the locker room. There have been a locker room. And these people are just getting, focused in. And the referee, what they normally do all the time, they come in 5 minutes before kickoff to let the coach know, hey, we're ready to go. He comes in, coach, 5 minutes. Coach says, all right, let's go. And so he's going to give his speech, whatever that speech is for us to go out. Well, at this particular time, he's going to give a speech, but he is going to the whiteboard to draw or to write some stuff out. But there's no whiteboard. So he sends two of the assistant managers down to the visitor locker room. to race down and get back, because we got 5 minutes. We'll race down and get that whiteboard and bring it back. They bring it back in, kind of smirking. And we're all kind of focused and we're ready to go. But they come in and they turn the whiteboard around on the backside, and it's the scouting report of us.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So they never erased it before they went out. And there's several people on the scouting report. And basically it was your name, your number, what position. Then it was kind of skinny, like, your weaker strength. Yep. And so our quarterback, 6'5", Joe Schmo, got a strong arm, but get him out the pocket because he's a slow runner. Okay. A running back, Michael Williams, 6'4", and share some of his strengths and weaknesses. And it went on down the line. I think it was like eight people on there. Last one, it said number 84, wide receiver, Bobby Whitt. That's what they call him, Bobby Whitt. The weak and strength thing, it just said game changer.
Wow.
That was it. I went out and scored 3 touchdowns on 3 catches, 272 yards.
Oh.
We beat the second-ranked team.
Okay.
At that time.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, it's the ability to know who I am, to be a game changer. In other words, me recognizing who I am, wherever I go, whatever I do, it will shift the atmosphere. Because I recognize and understand who I am. I'm a game changer.
Okay.
And so that would be my.
And so that allows you, that is most of the time the talent gets very specific, but every once in a while there's one that's more general. I don't, vague sound bad, but yours is more dynamic. It doesn't take a solid shape, because once you solidify into the shape, then there's something that you're not going to be fit. But if you remain dynamic, static actually, no, not static. Static is what it stands for. When you remain dynamic, you're able to fit into any circumstance. You're like, you know what? I have to be like water. Before he said, be like water.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Whatever container you put me in, I'm gonna fit.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so you found yourself by whatever circumstances to be right now in this police department.
Yes.
And you've become a game changer in this police department.
Yeah.
Whereas some people would have been like, I don't know, it's the right fit. Like, it's the right fit because I fit.
Yes.
Right.
That's it.
And you've been in different positions. I'll never forget my first encounter with you. I had been learning about the prophetic. I had been learning about the apostolic, but I had never seen it active in the church for myself. So the time that you had in this church, you were game changing elder because you were showcasing these gifts and these offices in a place where I had never seen it before. And it let me see that what I've been studying, how you can actually walk it out.
Yes.
How so deep. First time I went to a conference, I was like, this is a game changer. And I was like, oh snap. I was like, Elder is going to start bubbling and changing because this is here. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So I get that. I can see that. Yeah. Yeah. Atmospheres change because you're in the game. Yes. And quite simply, that's your compass in life. Yes. Is to identify what your talent is and then use that as a tool to apply to what your passion is. And people can have several passions. You can have several talents. Yeah. But the passion, that lets me know too that you have multiple elements. Fish only has one element. That lets me know that you can exist in any element as long as you have this understanding, knowing who you are, I'm going to whatever I do. Right? And so that makes you dangerous. Yeah. You know what I mean when I say that?
And it wasn't going back to the story. They couldn't identify the strength or weakness because whatever I did, it functioned at a level that they couldn't manage. See, they didn't have a scouting report. Yeah. They knew what his number is, who he is. He's a game changer. We don't know what he's gonna do, but whatever he does, he can do it.
But you can't just know define it.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way. They couldn't define it.
Yeah.
And then prophetically, they wrote that out. Prophetically, what happened? I went out and did the very thing that they couldn't manage.
Yeah.
Game changer.
Yeah.
He was going to shift what was going to happen today.
Yeah, and I wanna say this to you. This is what I hear from you. Like, even as you don't just change circumstances, that you change people. Because even now, by association, your players, the people who you play with, both in college and now, can see their greatness just by seeing how comfortable you are in yours. Like, man, something about Bobby Whitt. He knows that he's special. What do I know about here that can't be done? Yeah, what do I know about this? I don't know what it is. Yeah, I need to talk to this brother and figure out how he's doing. Right? Yeah. So there's some teaching, there's some impartation that's evident in that. So that now, it's one thing to be a game changer all by yourself, but to multiply the ability to be a game changer by reproducing with other people. Yeah. Now environments are going to change faster. Yes. And now systems are going to change faster.
Absolutely. And when you can tell a story to someone, particularly young people, that helps them to believe that I can be. We were with some folks last night, and two young ladies were twins who were playing soccer, and somebody had said, somebody, would you be willing to pray for them? And so I just kind of sat there and I was like, well, I'll see what, maybe. And something did. And I shared a story about game changing. But what I did, I helped them to understand that as you're playing soccer, being a game changer means that you believe in yourself to change the atmosphere. Okay. And so I shared that story. And hopefully I don't get too spiritual here, but the word testimony means to do it again. So what I did was I shared a testimony of something that happened with me to impart them. Yes. So I'm backing up what you're saying about game changers. It's not just an individual thing, but you then release it out.
Well, definitely. Yeah. So as we kind of bring this to a close, the last thing that I want to say in response to your game changer time is I imagine your quarterback. And I imagine him as he's throwing to you, his level goes up. I imagine your wide receivers around you. Everyone's like, for the game changer. And they're trying to set you up. Yeah, they can only set you up if they realize the greatness in them. Yes. And take it to that level. Yeah. Which is why I say we get to change and changing people. Yes. By elevating them. Yes. So I wanna thank you for being that game changer, that genius game changer. Yeah. Thank you for taking the time to let us sit down and talk with you. I saw it all throughout your book. Yeah. I look forward to what that book does for history. Because again, you started with this community, but now you have a testimony and a standard that will allow other communities to follow what was being done here, what's being done here, to change not only the community reaction to the community health, but across the Midwest, across the West, wherever there's police. Absolutely. So hey, this has been Inkwell Spoken. I'm your host, Reggie Key, motivational speaker, author, publisher, minister. And this has been my genius, game-changing guest on Common Genius, Uncommon Destiny, Brother Bob Whitt. Thank you, my brother. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right.
Thanks for joining us for this week's episode. Make sure you pick up the book, Common Genius, Uncommon Destiny, by my dad, Reggie Legend, available on Amazon and at inkwellspoken.com. Connect with us at Inkwellspoken on all social media platforms. If you enjoy our content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload.